I Hate Politics is a podcast about a human activity we love to hate. And this is the I Hate Politics candidate interview with Peter Boyko for student member of the Montgomery County Board of Education. Sitting in for Sunil Dasgupta, I'm Lorena Treviño, a junior at Walter Johnson High School and a member of the Minority Scholars Program. I Hate Politics is a podcast about our neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, and streets, and our local governments as they function in diverse, democratic, and sometimes divided societies. As part of the show, we have conversations with local, state, and sometimes federal candidates. But for this episode, my guest is not the usual political candidate for whom you can vote for, but Peter Boyko, a NorthwestHigh School junior and one of the two finalists running to be the student member of the Montgomery County Board of Education for the next school year, 2025 to 2026. The SMOB, as the position is known, is one of 8 members of the county school board and selected by secondary students in the county. That is, all MCPS students in 6th grade and up get to vote. Not all school boards around the country or even in Maryland have student members, and even when they have them, they may not have full voting authority. In Montgomery County, they are co-equal with their regularly elected school board members, except they cannot vote on personnel matters. The SMOB election is on April 23rd. Boyko's opponent is Montgomery Blair High School junior Anuva Mulu, whose interview you can find in the accompanying episode. Please be sure to share this episode with any MCPS secondary student you might know. Music for the episode comes from 2 short original piano compositions from Kensington resident Adam Bobrow. Peter Boyko, welcome to I Hate Politics. Tell me about yourself.
I'm a junior at NorthwestHigh School in Germantown, Maryland, and I am very honored to be one of the SMOB finalists this year. This has truly been a dream come true, and I know people say that a lot for various instances, but I remember getting involved in my middle school's SGA in 7th grade, and first getting involved in student advocacy, joining countywide organizations and leaderships from then on, and always admiring the SMOBs, always interested in the position. And now that I'm actually a SMOB finalist, it's been very surreal. We just filmed the Meet the Candidates video like a week ago, an incredible process, and I'm very grateful for the position I have.
What does being SMOB as a position mean to you?
This campaign means a lot. It's a campaign for safety, for security at schools. It's a campaign to ensure that every student, regardless of their zip code, can succeed at the school they attend. And it's a campaign for representation, ensuring that all 160,000 students, including our elementary school students as well, are represented. I know how important the role of SMOB is, and I want to make sure that if I assume the role come July, I utilize each and every day to represent the voices, opinions, interests of students. And I don't give up fighting for our safety in schools that put our lives on the line, fighting for other student interests, improving the meals in our lunch line, keeping bathrooms open with good quality menstrual products, and all of that.
What problems or areas do you think need the most attention and why?
Safety, 1000%. Right now, our schools are very vulnerable because we have very few preventative measures in place that will keep strangers out of our buildings, guns off campus. We must be proactive instead of reactive. We can't wait until something serious happens. And I'm proud to have been a champion for safety, school safety throughout my campaign. Some of my ideas include hiring more security guards for schools that need them, such as Earl B. Wood Middle School, the first school I visited during my campaign, who told me, hey, we have over 1,600 students or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact number, but we only have 2 security guards. That is not sustainable. We see that some schools have ID policies that work, that we've seen are effective for keeping strangers out of buildings. But we see other schools, such as my school, that have an ID policy, but it's rarely enforced. And my school is a school where we've had students from other neighboring schools come in during the day, walk around the halls, and I honestly think it is so easy for a stranger to walk into a school building, especially when a school has portables. That's where students are walking in and out of the building every 40 or 50 minutes. Any stranger wearing a backpack can easily fit in. Bathrooms, believe it or not, is a huge issue. We've seen lots of bathrooms locked. We've seen vandalism and vaping and violence in bathrooms. And we've seen, unfortunately, students overdose in our bathrooms. So bathrooms are a huge concern that must be addressed ASAP. I think that involves working with the superintendent, MCPS chief of security, and working with school administrators to keep most bathrooms open with supplies such as menstrual product dispensers with good quality period products. Our county only spends $2 worth of period products per female student. That is not enough. And then also, whether that's installing vape detectors, distributing Narcan closer to bathrooms for in case there's an overdose. And those are the two. School safety, bathrooms are kind of the two main issues I've been hearing throughout the campaign, and issues I plan to work on as soon as I get sworn in from day one.
Amazing. Yeah. Just to go into like hard tack specific. So you were talking a lot about like school safety and things like that. And I know you mentioned wanting more security guards in our schools. And I know it's really been a big topic of whether security guards should have like firearms or some sort of weaponry on them in case there is a stranger or someone who is violent in our school. How do you feel about that?
That is an interesting question and something I haven't heard actually before. I also want to make sure that our schools feel safe. They don't feel like prisons or airports or just uncomfortable environments. There needs to be a level of security. I don't know if having of security guards having firearms is the solution towards that. Every student deserves to feel safe at school, but they also deserve to feel comfortable. And having security guards walk around with loaded firearms, I don't know if that's what will make students feel comfortable. Looking into the possibility of having weapon detection systems. This is security technology that would detect weapons when they walk, if it were to enter a school building at the entrances. And this is very new technology that's still being looked into, but I know it's something that has been brought up in conversations that I've had with the superintendent. And it's something that the county is slowly beginning to look into. So I think having a pilot program of this technology, so just testing it out at a certain school before spending lots of money on it, I think is the best way to go.
I know you said like a lot of schools like utilize the ID system and are a lot more effective. I know at my school, WJ, we have to keep our IDs on at all times, but people don't really enforce that rule. How would you go about making sure like those rules and these policies are enforced?
At my school, we don't have any enforcement whatsoever of the ID policy. But I've heard from students who go to Blair or Einstein or RM, they have an enforced ID policy. I don't attend those schools. They might have different ways of enforcing the ID policy. Something I've encouraged my principal to do is reach out to those schools, see what's working, see what's holding students accountable to bring their IDs to school. I've heard of scanning programs where a student would walk into a building and scan their ID as they walk in, looking into that as well. There needs to be some level of enforcement. IDs are especially important for schools that have open lunch. If a student were to walk out for open lunch, they can only be let into the building by having their ID on them. Also covering the cost of ID replacements, looking into schools that have a functioning and working ID policy, ensuring security guards are stationed at entrances for schools with open lunch, and then covering the cost of ID replacements. Those are some of the solutions I have in mind, but I know it's a very school by school thing. And it's something the superintendent needs to work on, and I plan to work on the superintendent with to contact and reach out to administrators to ensure that they're enforcing the ID policy, and developing programs to ensure that every school has an enforceable and successful ID policy. On that note as well, students have complained about having to wear IDs. Some students don't like it. I think also allowing students to just strap it onto their backpack at all times so they don't have to take it on and off if a student doesn't feel comfortable wearing it around their neck or something like that, is another way to go to just ensure that, students who aren't so comfortable with wearing an ID can just strap it onto their backpack or just make it visible.
I know you mentioned how the district spends, I think you said $2 on each female student with menstrual products. Obviously, for me, that is appalling as a female student. But then, with the current cuts from the Department of Education, what if when you are advocating for these better menstrual products, they come to you and say, well, we can't do that because we have no money? Like, what is your strategy of going around budget cuts?
That's something I will look into once that budget season rolls around. But I want to emphasize to the board and to the superintendent that there are issues that must be funded that stretch far beyond the classroom. I think it's very common for MCPS to focus on test scores or stuff like that are inside the classroom. But when it comes to things such as bathrooms, school safety, or a greener MCPS, sustainability, those stretch far beyond the classroom. These are issues that students are passionate about that must be funded as well in the budget. But I was attending the superintendent's budget presentation, school safety, menstrual products, and I think also, school safety and menstrual products are all a part of funding that could get cut. It's a part of a group of funding that could get cut. And currently our county is over asking. We were given $3.3 billion. We're asking for $3.6 billion. So budget is tough, and it's probably going to get tougher for the next SMOB. But I think for any issues such as school safety that put student lives on the line, it's worth funding in every budget season. And then for menstrual products, looking at other places in the budget that don't necessarily need funding to reserve or allocate more funding towards menstrual products. As of right now, I don't know what those places of funding would be, but I know the board and the superintendent should not focus only on the classroom, but should focus on other parts of the budget as well. Security investments, menstrual products, and Narcan are all things that I will push for and prioritize every day of budget season. And I will take it all the way up to the county council who approves the budget to make sure that it stays in the budget and it isn't cut.
How would you decide what other aspects of the budget would get moved?
That's a question that I think I need to do more research on and look into more. And I always love and appreciate these interviews when I get interviewed by a new school newspaper. It helps me understand what students are trying to look for in a SMOB, what information students need. And then afterwards, I go in and I do more research. For example, I had a town hall on restorative justice and how our county needs to keep more restorative justice coaches and programs. That was a gray area for me and something I haven't devoted my past 5 years of advocacy towards as much. So I looked up articles and I did research and recognized the problems between students and the RJ programs and why funding might get cut. So in regards to budget cuts and how I would make those decisions, I know what my priorities are. And it's also important to keep in mind that a large percentage of our budget is teacher salaries, with that remaining money focusing that towards menstrual products and supplies in the classroom. So when it comes to school infrastructure, when it comes to security technology, that's all in a separate budget plan. Actually, it's called the Capital Improvements Plan, which I think will have more flexibility with, since that does not involve teacher salaries. I think 87% of the operating budget is teacher salaries, or around 87. So working to find space in the capital improvements plan to improve school infrastructure and renovations and invest in security technology. But I guess to sum up, this is a question that I need to do more research on.
How would you deal if like various schools or like independent schools, independent students may not necessarily agree with your budget cuts or how you allocate the money or what you're fighting for?
When we talk about new issues or new initiatives such as these weapon detection systems, anything new, I plan to have a conversation with students on, whether that's at one of my SMOB advisory council meetings, whether that's hosting a separate town hall or forum with the superintendent, not just for students, but community members as well. The conversation I had around restorative justice really opened my eyes and was really important. We, on both sides, we both asked questions, whether it was the audience, whether it was the SMOB finalists, and all together we learned what student needs are, and we learned how to move forward with this program. So I think conversations are very valuable, especially when it comes to new investments. And also heated topics such as cell phone use, such as maybe weapon detection systems or stuff like that. So one, having those conversations. Two, I know former SMOB Sami Saeed, he would do quick informal polls on his like Instagram story that were really helpful for getting quick feedback. So if it's something like that, like, do you like this menu item? Having those quick polls, quick forms of engagement. For investments in safety and security, I think that is non-negotiable, whether it's like a parent or community member that expresses concerns. I don't know why someone would do this, but express concerns around hiring more security guards for schools that are understaffed, prioritizing school safety. That for me is non-negotiable. Having conversations, quick, informal polls on social media, and understanding my priorities are kind of the three ways I would deal with disagreement.
I wanted to pinpoint on the Instagram polls you mentioned because that was really interesting to me, because I know it's been a frequent problem with past SMOBs that a lot of students don't know when the SMOB is coming to their school or don't know when or where the town hall meetings are. And I know, like for me specifically as a student, I don't use Instagram, I don't use social media. I find that more and more of my friends are giving up social media, and that being the main platform that SMOBs use to communicate with students, like maybe it's not working. You know, obviously not everyone is engaged with what the SMOB is doing or like what's going on. So do you have any other like plans or ways you could more easily communicate with a broader range of students?
I have multiple ideas for communicating with students and rather than social media. So something I want to do is bring back the monthly SMOB Minute videos that was started by former SMOB Hana Oluni. She had these monthly videos that would go out and I think would go on school's morning announcements. At my time, my middle school didn't have one, but I want to bring that back. I want to have monthly, short, easy to watch monthly SMOB video recaps that would go on every secondary school's morning announcements, for students to learn about my work on the board, learn about upcoming opportunities, all of that. Bring back the monthly SMOB newsletter as well. And also organizing the largest SMOB advisory council in history, where I plan to have students from every middle and high school represented, and having representatives from every secondary school in my SMOB advisory council are great alternatives to social media.
So now that we've kind of like covered your whole like candidacy and everything, just wanted to get to know you more like on a personal level, like you outside being a SMOB candidate. So if you want to like tell me a bit about yourself.
I play tennis as a sport. I've been playing since I was in kindergarten or pre-K even. So for many, many years, I really enjoy it. I play once a week. And I also did theater before. I was in ninth grade. I was one of the leads in The Wiz. For my high school, I played the Lion. And so definitely enjoy theater. Theater has taught me a lot in terms of stage presence, which was very important for the nominating convention, the SMOB nominating convention at Watkins Mill High School on February 19th, where over 450 delegates from every middle and high school voted for the final two SMOB finalists. So having that stage presence and also public speaking through theater really helped a lot with getting me through to the final two. And yeah, I also just this whole advocacy and activism work. It's enjoyable for me. I love it. I love speaking out and improving the world and the environment around us. So those have been some of my hobbies over the years. Did tennis since I was in pre-K, theater since I was in elementary school, advocacy since I was in middle school. So yeah, I think it's a great mixture of sports, arts, advocacy, doing that research, and yeah, that I also enjoy running in my free time, watching TV. All of that kind of sums up who I am, or really who I actually was before this whole SMOB campaign took over.
You mentioned that you've been doing advocacy like for the past few years. Do you want to tell me more about that? Like any organizations you're a part of?
Yeah. My whole advocacy story really shows that one small thing can change someone's life entirely. And that one small thing for me was an email from my SGA advisor in 7th grade during COVID. So it was home isolation. Everyone was at home. It was COVID quarantine. I was scrolling through my Gmail inbox and I stumbled upon this email from my school's SGA advisor saying, "Hey, join the SGA. We have an interest meeting next week." I spontaneously decide to join. Like, why not give it a shot? I run for SGA secretary. I actually make a rap video for my candidate speech, and I end up winning. And that is where it all like just took over. The rest is history type of thing. From there, I then ran for my school's SGA president. I joined the countywide SGA, MCJC for middle school, and then MCR for high school. I co-founded my own student-led environmental organization, EcoMoco, which now has over 200 executive board members and volunteers. And I've testified 10 times on the county and state level directly to government officials, whether that's the MCPS Board of Education, the county council, the Maryland State Department of Education, the Maryland state government. I've got to meet and work closely with executives and elected officials all over the state, including former vice president of the board, Lynn Harris. All of these opportunities came from one email. And I would not be on this call talking to you right now if it wasn't for that one email from my SGA advisor. I probably wouldn't even know what student advocacy is. And you would have a completely different roster of SMOB finalists right now, and I would not be one of them if it wasn't for that email.
Well, that is all the questions I had for you. If you wanted to talk about any other topics or like highlight anything else, it's open to you.
One thing I want to, I guess, stress as one of my strengths is my perseverance and grit when it comes to pushing for various issues. For example, when I was 8th grade SGA president, I promised my student body that I would get them cell phone use during lunch. It was a hot topic at the time. So I really wanted to allow students to use their personal device during lunch. So I remember throughout my entire 8th grade year, I put out surveys for parents and students to fill out. I met with my principal almost every week. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. one morning to prepare a presentation for my school's administration, all to just advocate for cell phone use during lunch, something I was passionate about, something so many other students were passionate about. And I've also done other advocacy initiatives, such as increasing my high school's hallway passing time. Northwest is one of the largest schools in size in the county, and we only had 5 minutes to get between classes. So I advocated to increase that time by 1 minute, and it's made a huge difference, actually, making it much more easier to go from class to class. And I've said this, I've testified over 10 times. I think all of this to say that all my work has been about perseverance, has been about changing the environment around me, around us, and improving our school system for the better. So I think that goes to show that with a seat at the board table, I will work every single day to make sure our schools are safe, our bathrooms are open with stocked menstrual product dispensers, career pathway programs are equitably distributed across the county. We have a more robust and mainstream financial literacy course to prepare students for the future. And every student, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their background, regardless of anything, has a voice in our school system. And that is something I will work towards and fight for every single day of my term.
Peter, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and good luck with the campaign.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
That's Northwest High School junior Peter Boyko, one of the 2 finalists running for the Montgomery County Board of Education. You can find him on Instagram at Peter for SMOB. You can find his opponent, Anuva Malou's interview, in the accompanying episode. If you have or know any secondary school students eligible to vote for the SMOB position, please share the interviews with them. Music for the episode comes from 2 short original piano compositions from Kensington resident Adam Bobrow. If you want to share your music on the show or know someone who wants to, please email us at producer@ihppod.org. I hope you will listen, like, and share the show as we bring you stories about politics close to you and to your home. See you next time.